The moment his foot landed on the cleaner's stomach, Femi Dapson had no idea he'd just buried the last shred of dignity his father had left in this world. Welcome to another gripping African folktale. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss a story that will leave you speechless. She groaned, gasped for air, clutching her mop and trying to steady the bucket of dirty water that had spilled across the lobby floor. But Femi didn't flinch. His face was twisted in disgust, like he had just stepped on a cockroach. "You rats should know your place," he spat. "Next time you see me coming, clear out." The other staff froze. No one moved. No one spoke. Not the receptionist. Not the intern. Not even the security man by the glass doors. Because they all knew, Femi Dapson was untouchable. The son of Benga Dapson. The name alone carried weight. To the public, Benga Dapson was a business colossus. An oil man. A cement man. A telecoms man. A logistics guru. From manufacturing to marketing, his name sat on boardrooms like a god. But what no one knew was, he no longer owned any of it. 29 years earlier, Benga Dapson wasn't a name anyone knew. He was just a lanky, ambitious man who sold second-hand car batteries from the back of a kiosk. He'd grown up without a father, raised by his grandmother who sold beans and pap. Every morning, he'd ride a rusted bicycle from the slum to the outskirts of the city, hoping to sell 1 or 2 batteries and earn enough to eat and save. What changed his life was a storm. One rainy afternoon, Benga stopped to help a stranded woman whose car had broken down. He offered to jumpstart the engine. The woman, elegant and proud, watched him silently as he soaked his shirt in the downpour, using wet cables to connect her battery. She didn't thank him. She simply looked at him, nodded slightly, and said, "You look like you don't belong where you are." That woman was Fumi Alade, daughter of a former customs director and a real estate heiress. She didn't believe in fairy tales, but something about Benga fascinated her. He wasn't loud. He wasn't rich. But he had that raw hunger in his eyes, something her polished, soft-handed suitors didn't. Fumi was used to control. She spoke, people obeyed. She snapped, things happened. But Benga didn't chase her. He didn't flatter her either. He stayed focused on his work, and that drew her closer. Months later, she introduced him to her father. The man hated him instantly. But Fumi was stubborn. They got married. Against every protest. And for a while, it worked. She funded his first company, Dapson Integrated Ventures. It began as a scrap-to-metal business and evolved into full-scale manufacturing, with Benga at the helm and Fumi managing public relations. Together, they became unstoppable. But as the years passed, Fumi's pride grew heavier than the company's growth. She belittled staff in front of clients. She slapped her driver for arriving 5 minutes late. She fired secretaries for using cheap perfume. And when the board advised Benga to manage her temperament, she exploded. "How dare anyone question me? Do they know I built this company with you?" Behind closed doors, Benga began to drown. By the time their son, Femi Dapson, turned 16, the company had started bleeding. Mismanaged funds. Staff turnover. A costly legal battle. And a failed expansion project that drained billions. But Benga was a proud man. Rather than let the press sniff out their downfall or risk his wife's wrath, he sold 100% of the company's shares to a quiet investor under a sealed acquisition. The papers never mentioned it. The public didn't know. Not even Fumi. Benga begged the new owner, a mysterious female entrepreneur, to keep him as the figurehead CEO for face value. He would take no dividend. No executive powers. Just his office. His title. His pride. The new owner agreed. But she set one rule: if you or your family disrespect even the lowest cleaner in this company, I will show you the power of silence. Now fast forward. Benga's only son, Femi, arrogant, wild, born with a platinum spoon, was walking through the company halls like a little king. With a pair of designer glasses perched on his nose, and a tongue sharper than his father's old razor, Femi insulted everyone from gate staff to top managers. But the worst blow came on a Thursday morning when he walked into the building late for an intern orientation. The janitor on duty, a small-framed woman with a headscarf and plain slippers, was mopping near the main elevator. She didn't move fast enough for his liking. "Move," he barked. She looked up but didn't speak. And that's when he kicked her. Right in the side. Hard. She staggered. Her bucket tipped. Brown water flooded the tiles. The security camera caught everything. The receptionist gasped. The cleaner slowly picked up her mop, stood to full height, and turned to face him. Her face calm. Her eyes focused. She stared at him, not with fear, but with memory. Femi scoffed and walked off, thinking the matter ended there. But inside the janitor's closet, the cleaner quietly pulled off her gloves. Wiped her palms. Picked up her phone. And called one number. That afternoon, Benga Dapson was in his office sipping tea when the intercom buzzed. "Sir, Madam CEO is here to see you." He froze. The cup nearly slipped from his hand. He hadn't seen her in over a year. They only communicated through email and quarterly reports. She never visited unannounced. "I'll be right out," he said quickly, rising and adjusting his tie. But before he could reach the door, she walked in. And behind her, holding a stack of printed CCTV footage, was the company's head of security. "Benga," she said, without a smile. He cleared his throat. "Madam, good afternoon. You didn't say you were coming. Where's your son?" He blinked. "Femi? He's in training upstairs." She dropped the footage on his desk. He picked it up. His hand trembled. 30 seconds into the video, he sat down. By the time it ended, he buried his face in his hands. "I warned you," she said quietly. "I warned you what would happen." He looked up. "Please. I'll handle it. I swear. It's no longer in your hands." He went quiet. Then he asked the one question he feared most. "What do you want to do?" The woman leaned forward. "I want to meet him. In the boardroom. Tomorrow morning. Let's see if he'll raise that leg when he knows whose company he kicked." The boardroom clock ticked loud enough for everyone to hear it. Femi Dapson lounged in one of the high-backed leather chairs, legs crossed, chewing gum like he owned the air in the room. Around him were senior managers, department heads, and a few interns too nervous to breathe. He hadn't bothered to ask why the emergency meeting had been called. In his mind, it didn't matter. He was Femi Dapson, the heir to Dapson conglomerates. The only son of Benga Dapson. The future chairman of a kingdom stretching from industries to oil, telecoms to real estate. He had never been punished, never been corrected, never been told, no, the company wasn't just a building to him, it was his inheritance. What he didn't know was that this building no longer belonged to his father. And the woman walking into the boardroom at that moment had every legal right to shut the doors on the Dapson family, forever. She walked in with grace. No announcement. No smile. No folder. Just presence. The same woman he had kicked less than 24 hours ago. Now dressed in an ivory blazer, sharp pencil skirt, and black stilettos that clicked with authority. Her short natural hair framed her face like a crown. She didn't look angry. She looked ready. Femi's chewing slowed. A few staff members exchanged nervous glances. Benga Dapson followed behind her, shoulders slumped like a scolded schoolboy. His tie hung loose. His eyes refused to meet anyone's. Every step he took felt like another nail in the coffin of his illusion. The woman stopped at the head of the table. "My name," she began, "is Ms. Adesawa Cole, CEO and rightful owner of every building, file, furniture, and soul that walks through the doors of this company." Femi's gum fell from his mouth. No one laughed. No one moved. Adesawa turned her gaze to Femi. "You. Stand up." He slowly rose, his eyes wide with disbelief. She walked toward him, heels tapping rhythmically. "Yesterday morning, while I was inspecting this building under disguise, something I do often to experience the reality my staff live, you assaulted me. Verbally. Physically. Publicly. Wait, you were the cleaner?" Femi blurted, a hint of disbelief still in his voice. Her lips curved into a smile that held no amusement. "No, Femi. I am the company." He blinked. She turned to the other staff. "This isn't about revenge. This is about rot. And it starts at the root." Then she turned to Benga. "Mr. Dapson, please tell the board the truth." Benga's voice cracked. "I no longer own this company." Gasps erupted. Femi staggered slightly. "I sold everything 3 years ago," Benga continued. "We were sinking. I didn't want to tell my wife. I didn't want the press to destroy my legacy. So I begged Ms. Cole to let me stay as the face while she took full control." Femi's world shattered. "What?" he croaked. "You lied to us?" Adesawa raised a hand. "This isn't about lies. This is about arrogance passed down like inheritance. You came here thinking you were a prince. You stepped on people, humiliated others, because you believed power was permanent." She walked closer to him. "Yesterday, you kicked me because I didn't move fast enough. You called me a rat." Femi swallowed hard. "You forgot something. The people you look down on are the ones holding the ladder. Kick too hard, and it crumbles beneath your feet." Silence hung heavy. Then she snapped her fingers. A staff walked in with a brown envelope and placed it on the table. "Inside this is a suspension letter. 3 months. No company access. No company privileges. No salary." Femi opened his mouth to protest. She raised a finger. "You talk again, I double it." He shut up. "You'll be required to attend behavioral reorientation, corporate humility training, and a compulsory 100-hour community service. If you miss one, Just one, you're banned permanently from stepping foot into any branch of my business worldwide. Gasps echoed again. Adesawa looked him over once more. I don't hate you, Femi. I pity you. You were raised around glass and gold, but no one taught you the value of dignity. That changes now. She turned to the board. Meeting adjourned. And just like that, she walked out. Outside the boardroom, Benga sat on a bench, his face in his hands. For the first time in his life, he felt truly naked. All his money, his cars, his legacy, it meant nothing now. Adesawa sat beside him. You could have saved yourself, Benga. But your pride wouldn't let you. He didn't respond. I let you stay on because I respected your history. Your hustle. But you fed your wife's pride. You let your son become a monster. Benga's voice was barely a whisper. She would leave me if she found out I lost everything. Adesawa stood. Then maybe losing her will finally teach you what humility couldn't. That evening, Femi sat in the back of his father's SUV, staring blankly out the window. His phone buzzed non-stop with messages from friends, gossip blogs, and even his mother, Fumi Dapson, demanding to know what was going on. But for the first time in his life, he didn't know how to respond. He had been kicked out of a company he thought he owned. Suspended. Stripped of status. And the woman he humiliated? She had stared him in the face. You did what, Benga? Fumi Dapson's voice shook the chandelier above her head. Her eyes were wide with fury, mouth twisted in disbelief, and her hands, decorated in gold bangles, trembled as she pointed at her husband like he was a cursed stranger. You sold my father's company? You let our only son get embarrassed in front of commoners? You sat in that house like a coward and watched it happen. Benga Dapson didn't respond. He sat quietly on the cream leather couch, his back hunched like a man carrying decades of defeat. His eyes were bloodshot. His face, sunken. He looked 10 years older than he did just a week before. I should have married Lanra Adagok when I had the chance, she roared, pacing. But no. I married you, the man with ambition but no backbone. The man who sold his legacy and lied to his own wife. Benga's voice was barely above a breath. You would have never let me live in peace if you knew the truth. Peace, she hissed. So you chose peace over honesty? You let a stranger sit on my company and call the shots, my company, Benga. My father built it with sweat, and I married you into it. Benga stood up slowly. You didn't marry me into anything, Fumi. You didn't build this company. You funded it. I built it with blood. I carried bags on my back in the sun, sold batteries out of a shack, wore the same shirt for 3 months straight. And when it started failing, I begged every man and woman I could to save it, including the woman you now call a stranger. She turned her face away, breathing hard. And what about Femi? She asked coldly. What happens to him now? What do we tell people? Benga looked down. Maybe now he'll finally learn how the real world works. Meanwhile, Femi Dapson sat in silence at the back of the community hall, wearing a simple t-shirt and faded jeans, his face damp with sweat and shame. Day 1 of his community service had been the longest day of his life. No one cared who he was. Nobody called him, sir. He swept, picked plastic bottles, mopped toilets, and was ordered around by a woman named Charity who ran the NGO like a boot camp. Femi, move faster, she barked, slapping a mop into his hand. Or is your hand too rich to clean this floor? By day 3, blisters had formed on his palm. By day 6, his friends had stopped calling. By day 9, Femi Dapson, the arrogant boy who once spat on drivers and kicked a cleaner, began to cry while scrubbing a bathroom stall. No cameras. No attention. Just the sound of his own sniffles and the bitter taste of humility. On day 12, after hours of cleanup at a rural school, the children gathered around him and started clapping. Thank you, Uncle Cleaner, one of the girls shouted, hugging him. The others joined. And for the first time in his adult life, Femi smiled, not because he was praised, but because it came from pure hearts. He looked at his hands, dirty and bruised, and whispered to himself, I needed this. Back at home, Fumi Dapson refused to eat. She ignored phone calls, shut herself off in her room, and scrolled through online gossip blogs that dragged her family's name through the mud. Billionaire's son kicked CEO, now a janitor. Dapson legacy exposed as a lie. It wasn't the disgrace that broke her. It was the silence from the so-called society friends who once begged for her attention. None of them had called. They had all moved on. Now, she was just another woman with a spoiled son and a broken home. And the woman they all mocked behind her back? Ms. Adesawa Cole? She was now powerful, respected, untouchable. 2 weeks later, Femi knocked on the glass door of Ms. Adesawa's office, head lowered, files in hand. Come in, she said without looking up. He entered, dressed in a neat blue shirt and slacks. No chains. No arrogance. His face thinner, but eyes clearer. I completed my hours, he said quietly, dropping a signed community report on her table. I also finished the assigned readings from the behavioral program, and I wrote an apology letter to the janitorial department. She looked up. And? Femi hesitated. Then he pulled out a folded piece of paper. I also wrote one to you. She took it without speaking, unfolded it slowly, and read in silence. Her face softened slightly as she scanned the handwritten note. It wasn't perfect. But it was honest. I've realized the problem wasn't my wealth, he wrote. It was that I never learned how to handle it. You don't inherit class with money, you build it with character. And I failed at that. But I'm willing to rebuild. When she looked up, Femi was already standing. I don't expect a second chance. But I had to say it. She studied him for a long while. Then finally, she nodded. You're not getting your office back. He didn't flinch. You're not getting your driver either. He nodded. She smiled. But you'll resume next week in the logistics department. Entry level. His mouth dropped open. You mean, warehouse? Yes. You'll count crates, monitor inventory, track trucks. If you do that well, we'll see. Femi's shoulders relaxed. Thank you. She raised a brow. Thank your mop. It did more for you than your last name ever did. He chuckled, bowed slightly, and walked out. As the door shut behind him, Ms. Adesawa whispered, maybe the boy can still become a man. The warehouse was hot. Dusty. Loud. Nothing like the air-conditioned corner office Femi Dapson once took selfies in while laughing at junior staff who couldn't afford Uber rides. Now, he stood under the harsh glare of overhead bulbs, clipboard in hand, sweat soaking through his shirt as he counted cartons of imported appliances in row after row of metal shelves. It had been 3 weeks since he started his new role in logistics, entry level. Every morning, he clocked in with the cleaners. Every afternoon, he had lunch with warehouse staff who didn't recognize him, and didn't care to. Every evening, he left with sore feet and aching arms, his mother's voice still echoing in his head from that explosive call 2 weeks back. You're dragging our name through the mud, Femi. Your father is barely holding this house together and you, my only son, you let a woman drag you like a thief. But for the first time in his life, Femi didn't care what she thought. He was finally hearing himself. On a quiet Thursday afternoon, while restocking heavy-duty extension boxes, Femi noticed a young boy watching him from the warehouse entrance. About 15, wearing torn sandals and holding a plastic water bottle. Femi approached him. You lost? The boy hesitated. I came with my uncle. He's a cleaner here. Femi smiled. You want to come help me count stock? The boy nodded eagerly. For the next hour, the two of them worked side by side. Femi didn't bark orders. He explained. He encouraged. And when the boy made mistakes, he corrected him patiently. The cleaner returned later and saw his nephew laughing with Femi. The man stood frozen, stunned. He had seen this same boy, Femi Dapson, 2 months ago from afar, strutting into the boardroom like a king. He had watched him insult junior staff, toss a receptionist's pen into the trash for being cheap. Now, here he was, kneeling beside dusty boxes, tying his shoelace, and smiling with a boy from the slums. 1 month later? Inside Ms. Adesawa Cole's office, Femi stood in front of her desk once again. This time, she didn't keep him waiting. She looked at him. I've been getting reports, she said. He nodded. They say you don't leave until everyone else has gone. They say you handled a delivery delay last week without blaming anyone. They say you even helped one of the cleaners buy asthma drugs for her son. He didn't respond. Just looked at her. I also got this. She held up a folded sheet, handwritten, full of small, neat lettering. It's a petition. Signed by every janitor, security guard, receptionist, and technician in this building. Femi blinked. They're requesting your promotion. They say you've become one of them. He swallowed hard. Adesawa stood. Do you know what leadership is, Femi? He shook his head. It's not presence. It's not fear. It's not money. It's what people say about you when you're not in the room. She handed him a white envelope. He opened it, appointment letter, logistics coordinator. Official. Salary restored. Title earned. He looked up, stunned. I'm giving you the post, she said. But not because you're a Dapson. Because you're no longer one. Silence. She walked around the desk and stood in front of him. Whatever your parents taught you, unlearn it. Whatever your pride told you, bury it. You were a boy when you kicked me. Now, you've earned the right to stand. He nodded slowly, blinking away tears. Thank you. She extended her hand. Firm. Strong. He took it. Don't make me regret it, she said. I won't. That weekend? Benga Dapson sat on a bench outside the compound, staring at the gray sky. His health had been declining. His silence had deepened. The press had moved on to another scandal, but his shame still lingered like smoke after a fire. Femi walked up and sat beside him. I'm working in logistics now, he said. His father said nothing. I like it. I feel human again. Still silence. Then Benga muttered, I failed you. Femi shook his head. No. You did what you knew. I'm the one who never asked to be better. He paused. I want to build something real. Not because of our name. But in spite of it. Benga slowly turned to look at him. You sound like me before the first million, he whispered. Femi smiled. That's the version of you I want to know. Ms. Adesawa stood by the window of her top-floor office, arms crossed, watching the company yard below. Femi was laughing with some warehouse boys, loading boxes into a truck. No bodyguards. No designer shoes. Just a man finally living life from the inside out. Her assistant stepped in. Ma, shall we approve his department's new proposal? She didn't look away. Approve it. He's earned it. The door closed. And Adesawa smiled. The boy who once kicked her, now stood as one of her strongest pillars. Not because he was born rich. But because he chose to be rebuilt. Sometimes, life has a strange way of humbling the proud and raising the humble. Femi Dapson thought his name was his crown, his wealth was his shield, and the world would always bow to his footsteps. But fate introduced him to a woman he once looked down on, not knowing she would be the very person who would teach him value, character, and purpose. From arrogance to awareness, from disgrace to redemption, Femi's journey reminds us that true strength isn't in how loud your name echoes, but in how well your character stands in silence. Now it's your turn. What do you think about the transformation of Femi Dapson? Do you believe people like him truly change, or was he just lucky to get another chance? Drop your thoughts in the comment section, backhand index pointing down, medium skin tone. I'm reading every single one. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this story.